The silent crises no one is talking about. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that your money is worthless, grocery stores are empty, and banks have completely shut down. This isn't just a scene from a dystopian movie, it's the terrifying reality for people living in countries on the brink of total economic collapse. While most of the world focuses on stock markets and inflation numbers, there are entire nations spiraling toward financial disaster. Currencies are crashing, debts are exploding, and millions of people are facing poverty, food shortages, and political turmoil. So, which countries are at risk of a total economic meltdown in 2025? More importantly, what caused these crises? And could they spread to the rest of the world? Let's start with the first country on this list. A nation once seen as an economic powerhouse, now drowning in debt and instability. Argentina. A country stuck in financial chaos. Argentina has been on the edge of collapse for decades, but 2025 could be the year when its economy finally breaks beyond repair. Right now, inflation in Argentina is over 200%, making everyday life almost impossible for millions of people. Prices double in just a few months, and the Argentine peso has lost so much value that people rush to convert their salaries into US dollars the moment they get paid. Because waiting just a few days means their money is worth less. But how did Argentina get here? The country has been trapped in a cycle of economic mismanagement, political corruption, and unsustainable debt for decades. Its government has borrowed billions from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, only to struggle with repayments. Instead of fixing the root causes, Argentina has relied on printing money, which has only made inflation worse. The crisis has reached a breaking point. In 2024, President Javier Milei promised radical free market reforms to fix Argentina's economy, cutting government spending, reducing the size of the public sector, and even considering ditching the Argentine peso for the US dollar. But will it work? Or will these reforms lead to more chaos, job losses, and social unrest? Many experts believe that even if Milei's ideas make sense in the long run, Argentina's short-term pain could be too severe for the country to handle. People are already fleeing the country, searching for better opportunities abroad. If Argentina doesn't stabilize soon, it could face one of the worst economic collapses in its history. And while Argentina's crisis is terrible, it's not the only country in danger. There's another nation, far from South America, where economic collapse is being fueled by war, sanctions, and financial mismanagement. There's another country facing a potentially devastating economic collapse. A nation that was once a rising global power, but is now isolated, struggling with a crumbling currency, and fighting a costly war that is draining its economy at an alarming rate. That country is Russia. Russia, a war economy on the edge. For decades, Russia positioned itself as an energy superpower, supplying Europe and the rest of the world with oil and gas. It used its natural resources to fund its military, stabilize its currency, and project power globally. But after its invasion of Ukraine in 2022, everything changed. Western sanctions crippled Russia's access to international banking, cut off major exports, and forced foreign businesses to leave the country. The Russian ruble has collapsed multiple times since the war began, and in 2025, it continues to lose value. Inflation is rising, and the government is burning through its financial reserves to keep the economy afloat. The war itself is draining billions of dollars every month. Russia has been forced to spend huge amounts on weapons, military salaries, and compensation for fallen soldiers. While it has managed to keep fighting, the economic cost is unsustainable. Many Russian businesses are struggling due to supply chain breakdowns and a lack of foreign investment. The Russian government has tried to counteract these problems by shifting trade toward China, India, and the Middle East, but this hasn't been enough to replace the lost business from Europe and the US. And then there's the issue of brain drain. Hundreds of thousands of young, educated Russians, doctors, engineers, tech workers, have fled the country since the war started, leaving behind a workforce shortage that could cripple Russia's ability to rebuild in the future. But the biggest risk for Russia's economy, oil and gas revenues, are no longer reliable. For years, Russia depended on its energy exports to keep its economy strong. But as Europe moves away from Russian gas, and China and India demand steep discounts on Russian oil, the country is earning far less than before. The Russian government continues to print money to cover its war expenses, and experts warn that this could lead to hyperinflation, a currency collapse, and a severe recession. Could Russia hold on and adapt? Or is its economy heading toward disaster? One thing is clear. The longer the war continues, the worse the economic situation will get. But there's still one more country on this list. One that might be in even bigger danger than Argentina or Russia. But the last country on this list might be the most dangerous collapse of all. Because if its economy fails, it could trigger a domino effect across an entire region, creating instability that affects the rest of the world. This country is Turkey. For years, Turkey was seen as one of the fastest-growing economies in the world. Positioned between Europe and the Middle East, it became a major trade hub, tourism hotspot, and emerging market for investors. But behind the scenes, Turkey's economy has been running on a dangerous mix of debt, high inflation, and government intervention. And in 2025, it's reaching a breaking point. The biggest problem? The Turkish lira is collapsing. Turkey's currency has lost over 80% of its value in the past 5 years, making it one of the worst-performing currencies in the world. This means that everything, from food to fuel to imported goods, has become far more expensive for the average citizen. Inflation in Turkey has been out of control, reaching over 60% annually in 2024 and continuing to rise in 2025. This is devastating for ordinary people who see their salaries losing value every month. But inflation isn't the only issue. Turkey is also burdened by massive debt. Over the years, the Turkish government has borrowed heavily in foreign currencies, especially US dollars and euros. But as the lira loses value, paying back these debts becomes nearly impossible. The government and large corporations now owe hundreds of billions in foreign debt, money they simply don't have. To make matters worse, Turkey's central bank has been burning through its reserves trying to stabilize the economy. But with each attempt, confidence in Turkey's financial system weakens. Investors are pulling their money out, and many fear that Turkey could default on its debt, triggering a full-scale financial crisis. The political factor: Erdogan's risky economic policies. One of the biggest reasons Turkey is in crisis is President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's economic policies. Unlike most leaders who raise interest rates to fight inflation, Erdogan has done the opposite, forcing the central bank to keep interest rates low while inflation spirals out of control. This has made the currency crisis even worse. Instead of fixing the root problems, the Turkish government has focused on short-term economic tricks, such as 1. Spending billions in government subsidies to temporarily ease inflation. 2. Using central bank reserves to prop up the lira, even as they run out of money. 3. Pressuring banks to lend more, even as debt continues to grow. These policies might provide temporary relief, but they don't solve the deeper issue. Turkey's economy is built on unsustainable debt and a weak currency. Why Turkey's collapse could be a global problem. If Turkey's economy crashes completely, the consequences could spread far beyond its borders. 1. European banks are heavily exposed to Turkish debt, meaning a financial collapse in Turkey could trigger a banking crisis in Europe. 2. Turkey is a key NATO ally and a major political player in the Middle East. Economic instability could lead to political instability, impacting global security. 3. Millions of Turkish citizens could be pushed into poverty, leading to potential social unrest and mass migration to Europe. In short, Turkey's financial crisis isn't just a local problem. It's a ticking time bomb that could shake global markets. Are these countries past the point of no return? Argentina, Russia, and Turkey all face different economic crises, but they share one dangerous similarity: they are all running out of options. 1. Argentina's economy is collapsing under the weight of inflation and debt. 2. Russia's war economy is becoming unsustainable, with sanctions and war costs draining resources. 3. Turkey's financial system is crumbling, with its currency and debt crisis threatening regional stability. The big question now is, can these countries pull themselves back from the edge, or will 2025 be the year their economies finally collapse? What do you think? Which country do you believe is in the most danger? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into global economic trends. Because understanding where the world is heading financially is the key to protecting your own future.